Guys, what's going on? Back again with another Arbitrum ecosystem update. As usual, nothing in this video is financial advice, and everything I say is my opinion, and my opinion alone. Let's jump right into it. Today here we have a tweet by 0x Recruiter, or Bellman from Offchain Labs, recruiter over there. He essentially says that there is an Arbitrum ecosystems job board. You can use it as a great resource to help you on hunting for jobs, whether you're looking for a technical position or a non-technical position. So if you actually click on the link, you'll be brought over to this ecosystem job board page. It's essentially just a job board for projects that are building within the Arbitrum community, including Uniswap, Cryptex Finance, Xpopulous, Trader Joe, Consensus, Galaxy, a whole bunch of different companies here, Treasure, the foundation themselves. Definitely worth looking at this page if you're looking at getting a job in crypto, especially as this bull market progresses. I think if there's one thing I definitely don't regret at all is definitely getting a full-time job here within the crypto space. It definitely gives you a different perspective on how everything works. If you plan on being in the space for a long time, why not? It's a growing industry that definitely will not stop. So definitely take a look here if it's something that you're looking for. We have a tweet here by the Arbitrum Foundation. They say, GM Arbinauts, a new temperature check has been posted to enhance the approved ARBOS 20 Atlas upgrade for the Arbitrum DAO further. It seeks to adjust the parameters for setting the fees on Arbitrum 1. The Security Council was requested to initiate a non-emergency action. No funds are at risk. So essentially, what the Arbitrum Foundation here is saying that, or proposing, I should say, is that they want to go ahead and configure the fee parameters for Arbitrum 1, the main chain, in that so essentially so that it's ready for the Denkin upgrade that I think is happening now within like a little bit less than 2 weeks. What they're saying here is that they propose to reduce the surplus fee per byte from 32 GUI to 0, and the L2 base fee to reduce the minimum from 0.1 GUI to 0.01 GUI. For those who, if this is a little bit too high level, one way I can describe it is currently on Arbitrum 1, there's obviously you pay a fee to use the chain. It's actually broken up into 4 parts. There's the L1 base fee, there's the L2 base fee, but there's also the L1 surplus fee and the L2 surplus fee. The L1 base fee essentially is what's paid to Ethereum, like in call data, pretty much, right? The other 3 fees that I mentioned, which you can actually find down here, are all essentially just profit, or not profit, but like a mix between operating costs and profit, for running the sequencer and all that other stuff. So this proposal is essentially aiming to reduce the amount of fees, L1 surplus and L2 surplus in particular, to essentially allow for the Denkin upgrade for the users essentially to feel cheaper fees is the way you can put it. But this was something that they mentioned that they meant to include in the Atlas upgrade, but seemed to be an oversight, which is why they're recommending the Security Council initiate a non-emergency action. So definitely some interesting stuff here. I do think, like, for what it's worth, obviously, seeing this, assuming the DAO picks one of these, it's actually, I think they were going to have a vote on the snapshot. I don't know where it is. Here we go. The DAO will have the option to pick to either set an L1 surplus fee and an L2 minimum base fee to whatever they want, set only the L1 surplus fee, or set only the L2 minimum base fee, or just set neither option and then just not have the Security Council do anything at all. So the DAO will be able to kind of pick on snapshot to what they prefer. I guess you can say. But yeah, like I mentioned, you've heard me talk about Duncan before. I'm very interested to see what happens, just because there is how do I put it? There's a lot of teams that I think are like overestimating a crazy amount. I think the optimism folks, especially, they're essentially if they have like a frame on a Farcaster or Warpcast. If you take a look and you can kind of essentially see how much it costs, how much a swap, for example, would cost on an optimism chain. Currently, I think it's around anywhere from 30 cents to $1 or something, right? But with the Denkin upgrade, they're estimating it'll be like 1/100th of that. So pretty much 100x cheaper. I think that's a enormous overestimation, and I don't like that, because it just sets the expectation that that's what people are looking for. And in all reality, that's, I guess, not going to be the case. It just doesn't make any sense. So while I think the widget is cool, I just wish there was more of a realistic kind of calculator, or I guess estimator, that we can go off of, because stuff like that will only look worse on us as the Ethereum community when you have outsiders saying, oh, like I thought you guys were saying that, the fees would be 80 to 100x cheaper, when in reality, maybe they're like, I don't know, like 50% cheaper, or maybe even more than 50% cheaper, right? But saying that something's going to be 1/100th of the price and stay that way does not make any sense. It just doesn't. So I don't know. Like it's possible maybe like the first second it does, but because of the way blob data works and how it's actually going to be stored and whatnot, like it'll still be able to fill up and still be and the chain will still L2 chains will still have relatively high fees compared to, let's just say, something with like alt DA, for example, right? On a chain that's relatively new, like Celestia or something else like that. I don't know, little rant there, little sidebar, but all that to say, I'm very excited for Duncan, very excited for EIP 4844. I'm excited to see what the fees look like on Arbitrum, as well as the other L2 chains as well. But all I'm saying is that we should be realistic with our expectations, and not overestimate at the detriment to us at the end of the day, right? But yeah. Also, I wanted to point this out too, that one of the biggest impacts that this would have, by the way, is that technically the Arbitrum DAO revenue would go down a ton if the DAO were essentially to vote in this favor, saying that for example, the last 30 days the DAO generated 816 ETH in revenue, but rather it would actually, if that change were to have been taken into effect, the actual revenue would have been a tenth of that. So definitely worth considering. Obviously, if the result of lower fees allows for a 10x capacity and allows for that same amount of profit, then you could argue that it's definitely worth it because you have more capacity, right? But obviously it's hard to measure that, right? It's something that's kind of almost immeasurable. Like if fees were cheaper now, how much more transactions would there have been? It's a little hard to measure, but things to consider, right? Luckily, I'm not the DAO. Anyways, let's move on. That was a very long one. We have another one by Access Advisory. Elections for the Arbitrum Research and Development Collective are live. Get voting now. For those who don't know, very, very quick recap for the Arbitrum Research and Development Collective. This is a proposal submitted by Access Advisory. It passed a little while ago now, actually, back in January. And essentially, it was to review and enhance governance proposals, conduct code reviews for security, provide a quantitative analysis for economic risk, and foster active delegate engagement. Fostering active delegate engagement, which will contribute significantly to the growth and success of the Arbitrum ecosystem. And also it will provide valuable tools and reports for proposal authors, helping them refine their ideas and making better informed decisions. It was about 1.76 million ARB that they asked for. About 665,000 would go to security. The same amount would go to research, and about half of that would go towards risk. So definitely interesting stuff here as well. The vote that's actually happening right now are the member elections. So it's election for a risk. For the risk side of it, election for the security side of it, an election for the research side of it, and of course, an election for the DAO advocate side of it. So definitely worth taking a look. If you have ARB, go ahead and vote now. You can also vote actually for the fee oversight now as well. I should have mentioned that too. But yeah, all that stuff is on Snapshot currently, so definitely feel free to take a look. Right, let's blast through this. Oh my God, I keep on like. More recently, these videos have been getting longer and longer, and I have to realize, okay, Hunter, you gotta stop yapping so much. I'm yapping right now. Okay, let's get into it. We have a tweet here by Dairy Wi-Fi. Oh my God, I definitely butchered that name. Exciting news: the Dairy DEX will be developed on Arbitrum. By leveraging Arbitrum Orbit Chain, we are introducing cutting-edge L3 network technology to trading, offering zero gas fees, high transaction speeds, and more. Let's explore this integration further. I'm actually not familiar with this team in particular. I just happened to look up Arbitrum, and they seem to be using the Arbitrum Orbit stack to develop their L3, which is very interesting. And this is actually one of the first L3s that is focusing on DeFi, it seems, but also saying that they're offering zero gas fees. I don't think I've seen any other L3 do that so far. If you ask me, the only way that they can offer zero gas fees is if they're using an AnyTrust chain setup, or maybe even all DA. I'm actually not sure. You could use a rollup, but even a rollup, even an L3 rollup would still be, I think, relatively expensive. Like expensive enough for you wouldn't want to pay the gas fees. But nonetheless, still pretty exciting. Shouts to Dairy for using Arbitrum Orbit as their stack of choice. We have a post here by Real. Real is the first permissionless L2 for real-world assets. As a modular L2 built on Arbitrum Orbit, Real incorporates the latest features and improvements of Arbitrum's Ethereum scaling technology. We're thrilled to join the premier DeFi ecosystem. Yes, this one is also another interesting one as well. So there's essentially going to be a real-world asset-focused L2, and it seems like because it's an L2, that they'll be paying 10% of the fees back to the DAO. For those of you who don't know, just as a reminder, as part of the Arbitrum expansion program, I think is what it's called, essentially, Arbitrum Orbit expansion program, you can launch an Arbitrum L2 on Ethereum itself or an Arbitrum L3 on another L2 that is an Arbitrum, as long as you're paying, I want to say it's actually 8% of the fees to the DAO and then 2% of the fees that will essentially eventually end up going towards, I want to call it the Arbitrum Development Committee or something like that. It'll essentially be a group of entities that contribute towards Arbitrum technology as a whole. I think currently, obviously, it's only Offchain Labs that's building Arbitrum tech, but I do anticipate that there will be more teams and entities that will start contributing towards Arbitrum tech to receive that 2% from the from sequencer revenue from these different L2s that use Arbitrum technology, or of course L3s that launch on different chains. But yeah, shouts to Real for using Arbitrum as a technology of choice. Let me give them a follow too. I'll give these guys a follow as well. All right, we have a tweet here by Giveth. Giveth says, "Hey there, Arbitrum fans. We have good news for you. Arbitrum is now live for Giveth donors and projects." Giveth, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is essentially a project that allows for. Let me just read the thing. Sorry, it's a zero-fee crypto donation platform that rewards donors to verified public goods projects. So essentially, it's kind of like a Gitcoin, but that doesn't have any fees. I assume that Gitcoin doesn't have any fees either. But it's pretty much like a GoFundMe kind of thing, but on chain. So pretty cool. Giveth is actually pretty big, I would say. So it's pretty cool to see them supporting Arbitrum 1 in particular. So definitely feel free to use Arbitrum 1 if you're looking to kind of raise your own project or raise funds for anything in particular. It is the chain with probably the deepest liquidity out of all of them, besides Ethereum, of course. So it probably does benefit you to use Arbitrum as your technology of choice. But yeah, pretty cool to see Giveth announce that. And yeah, feel free to use it if you want to fund something. But actually, that was the last one for the day. Luckily, this one is actually a pretty short video. Most of it was spent on the DAO stuff, which is always good. But yeah, we'll end off as usual on Beneath the Layers, a community-focused show dedicated to showcasing entrepreneurs in Web3 and telling their stories, hosted by your boy, of course. Feel free to take a look at this podcast that we're running. You can find the latest episodes on X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Yeah, pretty much almost any platform. And yeah, with that being said, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.